Hey everybody, welcome to the Pilot On podcast. My name is Elliott Morgan, and I'm here with the lovely Grace Helbig.
Grace Helbig.
How are you doing, Grace?
I feel like we're starting an NPR episode.
I haven't talked to you all day.
I know. It's 9:57 a.m.
Yeah.
Look at us, go-getters. The only reason that we're up this early getting stuff done is because Elliott had originally arranged for us to wake up even earlier to go for a hike, and I was too sleepy.
Yeah.
So the consolation prize is that we do an early podcast.
Perfect. It's the same type of cardio, same level of health.
We're just running our mouths instead of our legs.
It's perfect. One of those needs to actually happen. I think we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it tomorrow, and that'll be our healthy thing.
And then we'll finally get our membership cards to Los Angeles.
Yeah,
because
we'll take
have
a photo.
hiked.
You'll see it on Instagram, and you'll know that what we're doing is making sure that we check all the LA boxes.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm good. You seem tired.
I'm a little tired, but I've been up since a little earlier than...
Oh, yeah. So your adrenaline rush has subsided. And so
Yes.
now all you got to do is exercise your brain.
Hey, that's okay. I
Yeah.
can do it. I'm up to the challenge. This is a podcast where we talk about mostly nothing, but oftentimes it's a show called Married at First Sight, or now Married at First Sight Australia, a reality show where people marry strangers. We also talk about other things that we've been watching and doing to kill time during this wonderful year that we're having of excitement and mirth.
Yeah, because there's not so many just purely safe hobbies nowadays other than watching things in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, it's like that and hiking. So we've gotten one of them. But we did watch a couple movies yesterday, babe. Do you know that we watched 2 movies?
We watched 2 movies. I couldn't believe it. And they were both great and both
Were they?
dramatic in their own rights.
Yeah, they were both great.
Yeah, they were. We watched Spotlight was the first one.
Great movie.
Which is about... My brain just completely forgot what it's about. The Hulk is in it.
Catholic.
Oh, the Catholic Church and the indiscretions that the priests...
Indiscretions.
had with the children in the church.
The children in the church.
And it's all about the Boston Globe breaking the story of it in like 2004 or something.
It's Avengers for
2002?
2001.
2001 because it
Right
happened right
after
after.
9/11.
Yeah, the story they were working on forever and got buried because 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Avengers for journalism.
It really was. Everyone's in it.
Everyone.
It's the who's who of who didn't make it into the actual Avengers.
If you're not in Spotlight, you're not a superhero. Period. You got Batman. You got Hulk. That's about it.
Liev Schreiber.
Liv Schreiber. Oh,
How
yeah.
do you say his name? Liev.
He's Beast in X-Men too.
Oh,
I think.
really?
So he also.
I just know him as the Irish Catholic hitman.
Yes. Of
in that
the
other
show
show
called that we couldn't remember last night.
The show that's named after the character.
Yeah. It's always like some. What is it?
I'm looking it up now. Oh gosh, why is this so hard
You're
to
going
find?
to the
Ray Donovan.
Ray Donovan.
Yeah.
We watched that, which is a wonderful film. I've seen it before. Grace hadn't seen it. I was like,
was
I'll
great.
turn it on. I think that's my new MO with you is just sort of, I'll put on a movie with no obligation for you to pay attention. And then I'll sort of see the ratio of you on the phone to TV slowly kind of.
Yeah, you put it on with
oscillate.
such quiet confidence that I felt a very strong need to pay attention. I liked it a lot because it was very straightforward and they didn't like Hollywood it up by trying to add in all of these reporters' like personal lives so much.
You thought for a second they were then because you were like, well, where's his wife? I was like, oh, this isn't one of those.
Yeah, that usually it has to be about their personal relationships on the side and how that affects what they do in their professional world. And it really was about these journalists trying to get the information of this incredibly massive cover-up story that was so impossible to believe that had been going on for so long and had been so intensely like pushed aside.
Yeah,
and ruined so many lives.
And so many lives. And like the way they describe like the survivors and they kind of give the statistics and you kind of hear that word a lot and it gets desensitized. And you're like, oh, yeah, no, you actually do survive because the rate of suicide and all the stuff. And you're like, oh, I didn't even think about any of that part of it.
Yeah.
And then you go into like how pervasive and widespread this basically conspiracy was to cover up so much abuse. And it also just sheds a light on how cool journalists
Yeah.
can be, and how
They are like little superheroes.
and and they didn't hold back any punch throwing. What is it? They didn't. What's the phrase I'm
Punch
looking
each
for?
other?
They didn't punch each other, which
They
is
didn't
good.
hit below the belt.
Pull punches. That's what it was.
Oh, what does that mean?
I don't even know.
How do you pull punches?
Where you kind of say a phrase like, I think it maybe works, but I don't know what the actual.
Like they get on like a house on fire.
Yeah, they didn't make the journalists out to be perfect people either,
Yeah.
which was really cool. And then to contrast it with this current era, it's crazy to see that like we're currently living in a situation where journalists themselves and the media as a whole is being sort of like turned into this big other that's so terrible. And then you see stories like this where you're like, well, this is what you are including in the, your hate for these people, these other types of people who are doing a lot of good work.
Yeah, there's a line in the movie, I think it's Leave's character, that says this kind of story is why we do this.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I want them to get them by putting pen to paper and just outing all of the horrible that's been covered up. It's also wild. I grew up Catholic, and that learning about that, I mean, I heard about it years and years ago, but I didn't really pay much attention because my brain was already, I never fully loved church, never found any benefit for myself in it, but understood how it affected and helped other people. But to see that, you go, wow, I have to dismantle this whole system of beliefs of this being a good institution of that brings like love, light, and like protection to people.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, it doesn't. It's evil and bad, and it like grooms and ruins people.
But it does do a lot of good too, not to whatever, but
They take our money, they ruin the children.
they do more than that, but that is included, I would say. But I also don't know how any kid could go into the Catholic Church. I don't know. I feel like it's a hard sell for a kid because it's so foreboding and so big and like and ritualized and so historical
like
and strict and very there's a certain creepiness to it, I think, as like a child.
Stained glass windows in and of themselves are creepy. I've
They're
never
so
seen
cool.
a stained glass window that I thought was
You think it's beautiful a little bit?
I think they're hiding something. Why don't you give me that clear glass and let me see right through it? No, you're not letting me see through it. I gotta look at this image to get through it. They're hiding.
Do you think they're hiding the sun
They're hiding everything.
with pictures of
I can't
Jesus?
look into that institution because they got all these scripture stories all over their walls that they're keeping everyone out with.
Yeah.
I want to see what's behind all of these fables.
It's just outside.
I'm saying looking into the church from the outside.
Oh, I see.
That
Okay.
looking through a stained glass
There
window,
is
they're not
some-
letting you look in and really see what's going on in there.
There's definitely a
the
fortressy.
metaphor, the symbolism.
I know. But I grew up in the Protestant. Well, not Protestant. Well, it is Protestant, but I grew up in not Catholic, and they made it a little bit more fun and a little bit more enjoyable. And I don't know how you make the Catholic thing super fun for kids, but at least there's history to it, which is pretty cool. But now it's like bad history. We were talking about this
Everything's
last night.
bad.
Basically, it's because I was reading this book about how the Catholic Church sort of rose to prominence, and then it's not about the Catholic Church, it's called Passion of the Western Mind. But then seeing now like the movie like this and contrasting it with everything I was reading about how big they were, and they used to like fund science and fund art, and like the Renaissance artists were all funded by the Catholic Church, so they did all this cool stuff, and then they lost all their like power and recognition now in this modern era to science.
Yeah, and to just being bad.
And to being bad.
Like you had one job, to be good.
That's all you had to do.
Yeah,
But
and
you went and you went
fucked
back.
it up so horribly for so long, so widespread.
Yeah, and you know what's weird too?
But
man?
they don't also the I think I the thing I liked about this movie is that they also don't like super Hollywood how awful this story is. Like they treat it very real. They don't really, use images and
they don't try to shock you.
No, it's very straightforward. It's very subtle. Everything's very subtle in this movie.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I liked it very much for that because it just felt very real. That you almost feel like you're watching a documentary at times because everyone's amazing at their acting job.
They are so good, and it also, I think, lets you as the viewer do the work in like putting together the horrific nature of what they're talking about. Rather, it's like it's like the opposite of the show don't tell thing. It's like, no, they're telling you the thing that happens from the perspective of the survivors, and then it leaves your brain to be like, oh yeah, no, they need to be the whole thing needs to be, and you get real angry.
Yeah, which is why at the end it ends, very realistically, and there was part of me that wanted that Hollywood ending of getting their justice against these priests and like seeing them locked up and everything, but they don't show, like, it's not over dramatized in that sense.
And did any what happened? Like, I don't know what
the paper
happened.
got released, and at the end of the movie, I don't want to spoil it for anyone.
I mean, like, after the movie though.
Oh, that's up to us. They leave it in our hands to go look it up.
Bad
they
idea.
don't force feed us any more information. It's wild though. But then we went from watching Spotlight to watching another movie that dismantles an age-old institution, books. NeverEnding Story.
NeverEnding Story. Everybody.
Yeah, this thing really turned books on their head for me.
What are you doing?
Books can be, really sad and bad.
That movie.
Wow. So both of us, you put it on again with this quiet confidence of like, and this is, I'm choosing this, and she'll just have to figure out if she likes this or not.
Very true, yeah.
And both of us, in the NeverEnding Story, clearly you have that idea that you've seen this before as a youth. Yeah. And I know the things from the movie, but I couldn't tell you the plot or the characters or anything other than the big dog in the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the plot is not, I would say, airtight in any sense of the word, but it does kind of follow like the tradition. It's like you said it's like Lord of the Rings meets, what was the other one that you used?
Oh, shoot. I forget.
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz and Lord of the Rings. They're going on a mission to get to this castle to meet the princess, a.k.a. like who's the guy in Oz? The wizard.
Yeah.
And a bunch of characters are helping this hero journey of this Dorothy or what's his name?
Atreyu, yeah.
Which I always thought the dog was named Atreyu, but it's not. It's Falcor.
I know. I always forget the name of Falcor. I won't anymore because I've seen the movie.
Yeah.
Again.
Now I've seen the movie as an adult, I can register and remember all these things.
You kept calling him Worm Dog.
Worm Dog, yeah.
He's not a good-looking dog.
Well, but okay.
Dragon. He's not as good as I remembered, at least.
Exactly. Well, one, you remembered it as a child, and two, it came out in 1984.
Which is crazy. That's before both of us were born.
I can't believe they even had the ability to make puppets that move all little parts of their faces the way they do in this movie in 1984.
And it was scary. There were scary parts, like creepy looking. I did not. I remember as a kid not liking that little wood nymph dude from the beginning.
The little troll guy, yeah.
The rock guy is real cool, and I like the circus guy who's got like his snail, his racing snail. Uh-huh. And then out of nowhere, the wood nymph is like, no one cares about me and my stupid bat.
Yeah, there's like a feral hobbit that's running around.
Feral hobbit, yeah, a rabid hobbit.
Yeah.
And I don't like him, and then he like is there for a second and then kind of disappears for the whole movie.
We don't learn anything about any of them as characters or their relationship to each other.
And boobs.
Oh, yeah. So basically, the movie's only an hour and a half, which I thought it was like a 3 hour. I thought it was like a Godfather for children.
It felt longer than an hour.
They don't give a shit about trying to pace it faster for you. They let the Rockman, the turtle lady, and the dog talk as slowly as they fucking want the whole movie.
You know what else somebody said too? They said, because I posted on my Instagram about it, and somebody replied and said that there's also a German version.
Yeah, because the director's German.
But apparently it's longer, darker, and there's no uplifting music, and it gets sadder, and they're like...
Okay, because this is so I started looking up, like, where are the child actors now? And the one that plays the kid that's reading the book is Bastian. He didn't do much acting after this, and now is into like this photography printing thing, his Wikipedia says. And then the guy that played Atreyu was like a child actor for a while, and there's something in his Wikipedia that says like he was working as a tattoo artist, and in like 1 week, what's the amulet that he wears, that necklace?
Oh no, the oracle thing?
Yeah, he was giving people those tattoos, and that's how he realized like how much of a cult film this movie had become. It's a very strange. Let me see if I can find it.
So weird.
Yeah, but
What was the point of that whole thing anyway? What did
well,
he do? It just
the point
told
was
him
that
where to go?
what's that?
It was like his compass.
I guess so. I don't know. I mean, it's
Whatever.
there's a lot of
A lot
question
of imagery,
marks.
but not a lot of plot.
But it makes sense because you know how the German version of Santa Claus is Krampus?
Yeah, the
Which
evil.
which feels like they took a very lovely story and they made it German and scary, and we got the American version, which is still scary and unpleasant in a lot of moments, but curious at the same time. And I realized there were so many moments of this film that I looked away from as an adult that, of course, Child Grace hid her face the whole movie and only remembers this kind of sweet dog because it was the closest thing to like cute, cuddly, and friendly and hopeful in the whole film.
Only ray of light. Like nothing good happens for basically the whole movie. If anything, traumatic, like horribly permanently traumatic events happen where, for example, and most people remember this scene, a horse sinks into the quicksand.
A half hour into the film, the kid Bastian has just started reading this story. We find our hero. The hero has his journey laid out for him, and his horse is his guiding help. And then the horse just
sinks,
gets swallowed into a swamp.
Like slowly.
And it looks at him like it's crying and looking for help with its eyes, and it's too much.
Oh, and the worst part is because you know where it's going. The worst part is there's a little moment where Atreyu is like, haha, you're just being funny, aren't you, horse? And you're like, oh, here we go.
They don't give a fuck about cutting away.
High.
They make you watch it till it's done, till the horse is swallowed up and the boy
You sink with the horse.
The boy is drowned in his own grief, and it's just...
It is his own, because it's the swamp of sadness. And the reason that the horse is going down is because the horse couldn't withstand the sadness.
The whole movie is so emotionally intense when you actually pay attention to what the journey is, that he's supposed to find his true self. And there's a line in it that's like, most men, when confronted with their true self, run away screaming.
Oh, yeah.
It's so insane.
There's so much weird psychology that's like, doesn't ever get any kind of...
I can't imagine being a young boy being like, so this is what I will eventually have to do. I guess this is what we call puberty.
You have to go between the big boobed sphinxes. Because if you don't have full confidence in yourself as a person, if you doubt yourself even for a second, their eyes are going to open, shoot lasers at you, and you're going to die and burn to death.
Which is, when you put it that way, sounds like the most German way to build confidence in a child.
If you doubt yourself, you will die.
If you doubt yourself, lasers will shoot from these sexy sphinxes into your body and you will die in front of everyone you loved.
Yeah, there's a...
Also, if you've seen this movie and remember it, then this makes sense. Apologies to anyone that also, like us before watching this, have no real true recollection of what's happened in this film. The couple that he meets this like elderly kind of also hobbity type couple,
trolly old wizard
that are
witches.
supposed to like bring them back to health, and it's just the old man verbally abusing his wife the entire time, who's doing most of the work to create potions that heal them physically. And it's there's lots of women in this film aren't championed.
Well, there's very few women.
His mother has died. That's the other thing. The story opens on Bastian in the real world, and his dad is a very by-the-book, buttoned-up businessman, and he's like, you got to fend for yourself now. We're not going to let mother's death keep us from doing our jobs. Work is more important than our emotional grief and ability to handle it post-death.
Overpowering father figure who only wants order is contrasted with the absence of a mother who represents like love and life and comfort. And and
he gets bullied all the time, and then he goes up into this scary attic in his school.
Horrifying school attic.
Yeah, I don't understand why schools would have that attic. That school should be checked out.
That's a pretty cool attic, though. I mean,
it's very spooky.
You know, the school that I went to school at for most of my childhood life had an underground tunnel that like connected to the mega church across the street, but you could find little holes because it used to be a nursing home in the 30s, and it got
Your
converted
school?
into a school. Yeah, it was called like Evangel Nursing or Home for the Elderly, and they turned all of the apartments into actual classrooms where all the old people used to be. And
So
it
yeah,
was
that
actually
was
in the
haunted.
shape. It was like an old art deck. It's still there. It got preserved because it was so old that they couldn't tear it down, and it's in the shape of a E if you look at it from an aerial perspective. And then there's little grates in there where there's like, you go into the giant cafeteria. It's like all this old tile, and if you look down, you could see into the tunnel, and you can lift it up and go down in there. And I got to go down there one time, and it was super creepy. So the attic thing was not the most abnormal part of that.
Having seen a movie in which the church is questioned in their relationship with children, and then a movie about children having questionable heroic journeys, I don't trust at all the tunnels from your school to that church.
No, absolutely not. I think they had to. They blew them up when they.
It's probably
blew 'em
for
out.
the best.
It was supposed to. I think it was supposed to be like a passageway, like a.
Literal and figurative.
I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it was something more
Can we
benign
get
than that.
a Globe reporter on this story?
I'm gonna look up, baby. There's some dude who went through this place. It is the most insane. The church I grew up in is an insanely, like, architecturally insane place. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. It's so weird.
It sounds.
And somebody went through right before it got condemned, and it's like, or maybe it was after, and they like broke into it, and the stuff that they find in there is just so creepy.
Cool.
So weird. So that's a little something we're gonna do for a little Saturday activity.
Great.
Anyway, it's pretty crazy. So, NeverEnding Story.
NeverEnding Story is. I still don't fully understand it. I get it a bit where it's this kid who gets this book that brings him into the narrative, and this fantasy world, Fantasia, is being destroyed by the nothingness or the nothing or something. This like smoky cloud that like just destroys everything. And then there's this wolf that is a like minion of the nothing to kill Atreyu, who he has heard is sent to be the only warrior that can defeat the nothing and save Fantasia. But then at the end, it brings Bastian into the story, and the princess. God bless her. She's an amazing child actor, but she's too good because she creeped me out so hard.
Yeah, Grace has always had this thing that I've noticed since we've been together of like children who act too much like adults. And it kind of, when you open my eyes to it, it is truly creepy.
It's unnatural.
And it makes me want to go away. It makes
There's
me
part
want
of
to
me
leave
that
the
hopes.
house when I see him.
I know. There's part of me like that might have been the scariest thing in the whole film. Not the wolf, not the horse drowning, just the little girl at the end that acts like this vacant pixie,
vacant old pixie.
It's like hopeless. She reminds me of a Muppet Christmas Story, the ghosts of the ghosts of Christmas. The one that's the creepy little girl doll that floats around that's just like,
very much like that.
You are gonna... Well, she's very similar to that.
Way better movie, Muppet Christmas Carol, in my humble opinion.
A little bit more uplifting, had a very defined sense of joy at the end.
God, I do love that movie. Is a good palate
that
cleanser.
Movie deals with grief in a very puppets, but they deal with their grief a little bit better.
Yeah. So here's my theory on this, since I've been on this real reading kick lately.
Yeah.
Here's what I think.
Okay.
Atreyu, represents Atreyu and Bastian are essentially
the same
person. Atreyu represents his hero side that Bastian has not been able
to connect with.
And in reading the book, he's able to connect with it and actually find that he himself is the hero.
He's a warrior,
and he can go through life not being afraid of the bullies that put him in the dumpster anymore, etc.
Yeah.
The nothing, I think, could... obviously,
I feel like that's depression.
It's depression, and it's also, I think, representative of, as the wolf thing says, the evil bad guy says, the reason that it's happening, the reason that I'm helping, is because people have lost their ability to hope and their ability to dream, and as a result, the nothingness is creeping in. I think that actually is a pretty cool message.
I mean, it's a full metaphor for him going through stages of grief. That after his mom died, he's totally depressed, and that could wash over him completely and destroy like any hope that he has for creating a life for himself.
How did it end?
Ended with that the little girl said, you have to give me a new name. When this part is crazy because she just keeps saying that someone's got to give me a new name. And they need to find a human child. Atreyu has to find a human child to bring in to give the princess a new name. And Bastian's like, man, I wish they got me because my mother had a beautiful name. So now we're set up that this is going to happen. He's got to say his mom's name. Princess comes in at the end and is like, manic pixie weird girl, and starts saying like, it's okay. You can just say, you have to say the name, Bastian.
She has this one moment where she does this little look where she goes like this. She kind of does like the that
and then
meme
she starts.
of.
They have a cut back and forth of her crying, looking directly into the lens of the camera, and Bastian looking into the lens. And she's like, "Say the name, Bastian!" And it's so intense and crazy and creepy. It feels very German, even though I don't understand what that means, but it just seems appropriate. And then he finally like goes to the creepy window and like screams out his mom's name, who I couldn't tell what her name was.
I don't remember the name of it.
But
I didn't hear what he said.
But then I guess everything went back to okay, and then the next thing you know, he gets wishes. Oh, and then he gets as many wishes as he wants.
Oh, just forever, he just gets all the wishes.
He gets all the wishes that he wants, and then they're like, do you know what you want to wish for? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, it's going to be for his mom to come back. He's going to want to see his mom one last time. And it just cuts to him on the back of Falcor going, yeah! And then he's flying through the streets getting revenge on the bullies that put him in a trash can earlier. And I was like, so our whole thing about him wanting to grieve his mom, just he says her name and now fuck it, I'm going to ride this dragon worm dog in the sky.
I like that. It doesn't make sense for him to bring his mother back because he just went through the whole process of grieving her.
I guess him saying her name is him putting her to bed finally.
It's him facing the nothing that he's been denying and thereby extinguishing it and making it as though it was like it never happened.
I understand that this is a very beautiful metaphor for the journey of like post-death grievances, but it's also fucking weird. And
it also doesn't make sense.
But they also cater clearly to young boys that are watching this, that the kid gets to ride on the back of Falcor and get his revenge on the bullies. That it's like, all right, I see what you're doing. You're giving the kids something after having to sit through this nightmare of a journey for an hour and a half.
The way they just shot the wolf thing coming after Atreyu, I was like, this is
and
like...
then he stabs him. Like the child... the
fight ends immediately. The wolf just jumps on him, and then he pushes him off.
He goes through death, and then he murders something. This kid is forced to grow up as a warrior way too quickly, I think.
The scene where Atreyu he enters this old temple, and he starts seeing this story he's been on.
Yeah.
Happening in panels that are painted.
Much like a church.
Super cool, much like a church. But then the device of him seeing a painting of the wolf thing first and not recognizing it and then seeing that it's behind him is pretty cool and very scary.
Very much so. But that was an intense movie to watch.
And two of them.
Back to back.
Yeah. And we had weird dreams last night, too, after watching it.
Yeah, you dreamt about a big spider.
I did, yeah. It looks like that's not good news. It turns out we have spiders. Actually, we have no spiders right now, which is really nice.
Knock on wood. Wow. Yeah, it was a lot, but I was glad to watch it again as an adult and realize how... it's amazing the quality of movie that they could make in 1984. Super impressive.
I was like, I guess we haven't come that far. Like, we can do really cool special effects now.
Has this tried to be remade in modern day?
I think they talked about it, but
I feel like it's so iconic as it is that it'd be tough to remake it. It feels like a cop-out because we have so much technology now.
I would like to watch the second one at some point.
There's a second one?
Yeah. And
I guess because it never ends.
We get him. Maybe we watch that at some point because I think that might be a little bit... Maybe it's better. Maybe it's way, way worse. I don't remember.
It might be because it feels like a movie that's that iconic by itself doesn't need another one.
It's my Godfather, baby.
That's my Godfather 3 we haven't gotten to yet.
Yes. What did your dad say? They were in it for the money?
Yeah, I talked to my dad. I told him that we watched The Godfather, and he was like, they're great. And then I was like, we haven't watched the third one. He's like, yeah. You could tell they're just in it for the money with that one.
That's such a good... I'm just like, when I thought about that, I was like, oh, that's totally what it was. Anyway, we watched... let's talk about a real cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah, a real hero's journey. Married at First Sight, U.S. They're in New Orleans.
I need to make an apology.
Okay.
Brett did some good stuff in this last episode. I gave him a
Brett.
hard time.
Oh, yes.
He,
Okay.
he seemed to really have a sweetness about him that I did not see portrayed when he was getting super drunk at the bachelor party.
Brett, is the one with all the sarcastic brothers.
And we did talk about the nature of the sarcasm and how, at least in our own, thank you, baby. Get it.
You're welcome.
Gross.
You've been through so much.
It's a big wolf. But Brett is very sarcastic, but the kind of sarcastic where he just says the opposite of the straightforward answer. So it's not really funny. It's just sort of like...
It's autopilot for him. I don't think he even realizes that they're all doing it.
It's a defense thing. It's not really...
I think he and all of his brothers do that, so they don't even realize that that's what they constantly do, and they've made it their shtick. So you can't abandon the shtick.
Yeah, so that's a perfect. That encapsulates it perfectly. But I was worried it was only going to be that the entire time. He was super sweet in this episode.
Yeah, especially because Olivia rules. She's so sweet, and she's one of the people that's the most natural on camera that I've seen in this franchise in a long time.
Yeah.
Like you can tell that she's probably exactly like that as soon as they stop recording. And it, I think, probably makes him way more comfortable. And so the sarcasm defense out of uncomfortable sort of thing gets reduced a little bit.
Yeah.
But they seem really sweet.
She has a calming.
Yeah, she's just herself. It makes me it's easier to watch them. They're not as cringy because she's just like normal.
You know, did I tell you one time Jason Segel said that I have a very calming energy about me? That's a name drop, but also the only time anyone's ever said that about me.
Wow. Okay. I don't know what to make of that.
It's just, you can calm down.
I guess I need to chill the fuck out.
Maybe chill out. Maybe try and calm down.
Maybe I need to see the value in you because Jason Segel's going to swoop in and take you away.
He's been macking on me, baby, more than you even know.
Oh, wow. I didn't even... Jeez, I've had blinders on. I haven't been able to see this for what it is.
It's like when you get a compliment that you never get, that is just like you put in your
Very
pocket
specific,
and you hold on to it forever.
Unique. Yeah.
That's opposite of how you could perceive yourself. But Olivia is wonderful.
Yeah,
she
they're
has
great.
It. She's got the real thing.
They're great. Bennett and Amelia might be our number ones, obviously, this season. Little like weirdos that truly aren't.
Perfect.
But they're not even putting it on,
Nope.
Which is nice, even though I think Bennett's family is putting it on a little bit. Because this episode, they all went and they separated and had brunch the morning after their wedding with their in-laws and like the family of the person they married. And Amelia went and had lunch with like Bennett's mom and sister. And his sister came in hot.
Yeah.
She was like, he doesn't believe in having children. He thinks it's morally corrupt to have your own children. So he'll probably want to adopt if you guys have children. And Amelia was just like, okay. Cool. And then meanwhile, his mom's like, we're weird. Did I mention that we're weird? And you're going to have to be weird to be in this family.
We're weird. They're weird. They're beautiful. Weird. You're weird. Yeah.
Did I mention we're weird? I'm putting a cup on my head. We're weird. We do this as a family. There's no way to pin us into a corner.
Yeah. It's like they are to weirdness what Brett and his brothers are to sarcasm.
Yeah.
Like, that's just who we are.
You're going to have to deal with it. Try and guess what I'm going to do next. You can't.
Because I'm quirky and weird.
I'm weird. But our favorite thing is that Bennett's sleeping attire is he just wears a dress to bed.
Little cotton dress, yeah.
I love it.
Perfect. Says nothing about it. Just starts putting it on. They don't even talk about the idea of having sex the first night of their marriage. They just are chill and they hop in bed like a couple of little cute kids. And also Bennett's family is the equivalent of you can take the kid out of the theater, but you can't take the theater out of the kid. And there's always a little bit of a performative element to it. But whatever, they're perfect.
I think She's
great. Amazing.
The casting directors did a great job this season getting both of them. Because if you have both of them in that casting pool, you realize like, oh, you got gold.
It doesn't take an expert to put those two together.
That's very true.
It takes someone from, you could see that you could be at a football game and be at the 50-yard line. Look at those two. Put them together.
Totally. And then everyone else, Miles and Karen, they were real sweet. She lost her voice and seemed like she got real sick right after the wedding.
Sweeties.
Also, they go on their honeymoon after they have like their, lunch with everyone or brunch with their in-laws. And this season, they're doing it right. They go to Mexico and the resort that they're staying in looks nice.
I think they heard us.
I think that, that whole production team listens to our podcast, took our opinions and thoughts, and made a better season for us.
I'm not trying to brag. I think me personally insulting the producers
Verbally
of this show.
assaulting the people that put all their blood, sweat, and tears to make stuff for us.
I didn't make it personal. All I just said is, are you okay with how bad this show is?
No, but it's great so far. And so they all go on their honeymoon. I'm trying to remember what happened because we watched this on Wednesday.
Oh, ages ago.
Yeah, Woody and Amani are still super sweet. She just seems so cool, so I don't want him to mess that up.
They seem great.
Yeah, and then Christina and Henry, they still seem like he doesn't know what's going on. I have a theory that he is not attracted to her.
Oh, right.
But he's a really nice guy, and he's having just a consistent panic attack about how to be without like giving an impression that he's not into her, but also like not giving her false hope. I think he's just totally paralyzed in the fact that like this isn't exactly maybe what he wanted.
I think maybe, however,
I don't know.
To build upon your theory,
Sure,
Dr. Helbig,
Thank you.
I would add or contend that perhaps also he has the inability to develop an attraction to her or to see her objectively as a potential partner due to the immense nervousness he has around cameras. And as such, he is simply not capable of being a good subject for this so-called experiment.
I can see that because she's a flight attendant, so you know she's obviously much more of a people person and travels, and like it seems like she's able to kind of go with the flow a little bit more, and he is clearly very regimented. And I think he's so panicked by being in the spotlight, and he's probably giving her a very wrong impression of like what he might actually feel for her, but he's so distracted by the fact that like a camera's on. So that's
he's got like first day of school, new school vibe all the time.
Yeah.
He's still trying to fit in. And the clips that they're showing, they're doing this like canoeing or something. And the poor buddy he just falls a lot. And I can relate to that. I myself am not an athletic person. I'm incredibly clumsy. I don't know how my body works. So I feel for him when it happens. But at the same time, I'm like, oh man, she shouldn't be on this show. It shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, it feels like he like got coerced by like friends to all like sign up for the casting call, and then he couldn't believe that he got picked, and now he's thrown into this whirlwind, and he doesn't know how to stop it because he's too passive.
That might be it, Grace. Who do you? But I got some
But
ideas on who coerced him to.
Oh, Dad?
No, my God.
His dad is such a character. His dad did like a tight 20 stand-up set at the wedding in his speech.
And he looks like, this guy's like a very good, like a good-looking, normal-looking person. His dad's like this big, burly, big personality, goofy guy.
At the brunch he has with Christina the morning after the wedding, the dad is wearing like a wrinkled, disheveled, button-down shirt that's only buttoned to like hit right above his belly button, but then he puts a napkin, as if you put a napkin in your collar to protect your shirt, but he puts it in the shirt where it's buttoned, so it's like halfway down his body, and it's just full chest exposed, and then a napkin halfway down his body as he's eating his meal. It's such an interesting, curious look, but you can tell, you said it before when we were watching, I think one of the last episodes, you're like, oh, this kid clearly is rebelling against his kind of like wild, frumpy dad by being a super buttoned up, get his life together kind of son.
He's compensating.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. I hope that she seems to have a decent sense of humor about how nervous he is. So I hope
she does, because you can see her making gossip eye contact with the producers every now and then.
She's constantly looking off camera like, what do I do? I know. It's like her giving him mezcal for the first time when they get to their room on the honeymoon. And I'm like, that'll help. That's probably good.
Oh, God. He didn't know what mezcal was. He was just very
sweetie. The one...
He's a sweetie.
They're all doing their best. The one funny thing that kept happening this last episode that we noticed, and maybe this happens all the time, is that Dr. Viviana her sound bites in this episode.
What are we doing with those?
Were so confusing. She would give these sound bites being like, typically, a honeymoon happens after the wedding where the two newly married people get to spend some intimate time at a resort or exotic location. She's giving...
Fucking thanks, Dr. Whatever.
Viviana's giving information like we're aliens that just landed on Earth and want to enjoy the
It was
show.
even worse than that. It was like, the honeymoon is a period of time after the wedding in which our couples will consummate their marriage and get to have a little fun. And you're like, what are you... maybe it's one of those things where the judges are in quarantine and they need a few extra minutes to kill airtime. So they're like, describe what a marriage is.
Yeah, we need to put you in this episode somewhere. So can you just like tell us what for people that don't know what a honeymoon is?
What was the other one? It wasn't just honeymoon. They described. She did it with
there
another
was
thing.
something
She gave some
else.
definition of something that literally everyone knows what it is.
Yeah, no, it was something about like consummating the marriage. Typically, couples consummate the marriage on their first night, but we are not making.
No, duh. Thanks. We've been watching this anyway. Whatever.
It was a fun
It's a perfect
episode.
show.
This episode felt a little bit like it wasn't as totally thrilling because it's just kind of a filler episode before the honeymoon really starts for everyone.
Very true. But on the flip side of that, I think I've lost a lot of interest in, and I'm going to segue here, Married at First Sight Australia, because this most recent episode felt, one, like we were being blatantly lied to. It felt blatantly scripted. It felt like they were living in Airbnbs because that doesn't make any. It looks
they went back
fridge.
to.
No.
They went
it's an Airbnb.
home to all of the husbands' houses for the week. So the wives got to see where the husbands live. And it all felt like they rented a variety of Airbnbs that they pretended were the husbands' houses.
Yeah, and it was also, I don't know if y'all are watching this show or not, it was like a little bit of emotional abuse happening to a lot of the women that is was not cool. Like there was one girl who was just like, please don't bring up anything about us in front of your family.
Yes.
And like
Kathy.
2 seconds later, this guy's like,
talking to his mom.
I haven't, the attraction and and then we don't get, and she always
that
feels
guy's relationship with his mom is fucking weird.
That's so weird.
And his mom looks like a Disney villain
She's
that's
evil.
gonna murder the
That's an evil
princess.
one.
But and then the other guy, Michelle and Steve, the older couple, Michelle
Barbershop
lost her
Steve.
voice completely, and then Steve goes to have lunch with his friends, and she's like, please don't bring up anything. And then he just immediately brings up that he's not sexually attracted to her, but he hopes that maybe it'll grow. And she can't even speak, and she's trying to defend herself.
But I think she was both.
It was
in
hard to
shock.
watch.
It was hard to watch, and also, how is this happening that two couples out of the amount of couples are being told specifically not to do one thing on camera, and then they do it? That's a little suspect.
I feel like now that we've planted the seed that show is a little bit more produced, we're watering that seed for ourselves and allowing it to grow into how could we possibly watch this? This is so scripted. They're all actors. But we're
gonna watch every episode.
Yeah, it's we'll see what happens. But I get why they introduce more couples into their experiment, because people drop out and they need obviously content. But because the American one is good this season, I am finding myself less and less interested in the Australian one. But they're fun to watch just for the comparison of the two.
Yeah, the American one has crossed a weird line into being where
good
in the sense of like I'm really rooting for especially Bennett and
Amelia.
I'm like, oh man, like this is
you
one of those
guys
things
are
where
really good for each other, but also they've teased that this season dips into quarantine and they have to quarantine with each other, which is fucking wild.
It's so weird. They're gonna get caught. It's gonna catch up with real time, and this is gonna happen with all the entertainment.
Yeah.
Apparently, they're doing that with Succession too. They're in season 3 of Succession, but they said what they're gonna do is like incorporate it so subtly in the sense that like there might be a mask in the background or like a bottle of hand sanitizer, and everything else will just keep on going as normal. And I was like, oh, that's actually.
Well, I'm excited to see
sense.
how that plays out.
Special on TV.
Well, we did it. We watched a wide variety of things this week.
And some news.
And news.
Let's do our political hour.
We're
going to start our political podcast right after this. Anything else you want to talk about, babe?
No, I think that's good. I think we covered everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let us know if you've watched the NeverEnding Story lately, and if we should watch the second one.
Let us know if you think we should we'll definitely.
Yeah.
I'll push for it.
And I recommend watching Spotlight if you haven't. It's a
Spotlight
really
is
great
great.
movie.
And also, if you guys don't mind, if you enjoy this podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes, and you can subscribe to it on there and on Spotify. It's also on SoundCloud. And yeah, thanks, guys.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.